Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Money Cure podcast. I'm your host, Reverend Sean Robert Grant, or you can just call me Sean Robert Grant if you choose. Hope all is fantastic with you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Great show as always planned, and got a lot of deep truth to be revealed as it relates to the idea and the concept around money, which is amazing, and it wouldn't be you wouldn't be here if it wasn't. So I'm ready to extrapolate some truth on that here in just a bit, but I want to give you a quick reminder that if you have any questions about anything, any feedback, any suggestions about any topics that you'd like to talk about, please do so and write to us at seanG04@gmail.com. Thank you in advance. If you feel that, this podcast has benefited you and you want to take it to a whole nother level, there's some resources you can check out. So if you go to Sean Grant, that's ShaunGrant, Grant, /medium.com, or actually, no, sorry. It's medium.com/Sean Grant. Then you can find a lot of free resources and articles. Uplifterentertainment.com is another place that you'll find some more resources as it relates to money, prosperity, wealth, spiritual concepts of money. And then we just released a book called The Money Cure, Healing Your Relationship to Money and Discovering the True Path to Abundance. That is available on Amazon in paperback form as well as Kindle. It's a really quick read, because it's meant to be one of these books where you can kind of go over it and learn the concepts and learn the topics. It's only 125 pages long, and it's got some money truths in there that come from such a beautiful divine place that I can guarantee you've never heard them before, but that's the beauty of it. They're there to help you to excel with your money journey. All right? Whew. Let's get into today's topic. So this is one of my favorites because for the longest time, I always thought money was the reason for security. And then I had like an immeasurable amounts of spiritual awakenings that showed me that it's the other way around. So I'm going to tell you something, and this is the law of correspondence. I've really kind of dove into the laws of the universe because it's important to understand how the universe works if you're going to receive that which you choose and that which you want for yourself. You got to know how the universe works. So I've been, like I said, I've been really dwelling on universal law, and the law of correspondence serves here pretty doggone good. And it's as within, so without, as above, so below, as in heaven, so on earth, right? And law of correspondence basically states that there's always going to be a corresponding result or reaction to something as it unfolds, right? So whatever you're thinking is going to be shown out into the realm of external reality, right? Whatever is spiritually going on within you is going to be manifested on a material level. And so that just kind of gives you an example of that. You can definitely read up on this more so, but that's just kind of a quick example. And it ties into our message today because, there's a quote that I've used a few times on my YouTube channel, which is another free resource you can check out. It's just Sean Grant. Check that out when you get a chance. Bunch of videos there. I think like 700 videos total. But as I was saying, there's a quote, and the quote says, I've used it a bunch of times, and it says, "I'm not rich because I have money. I have money because I am rich." Okay? I'm not rich because I have money. I have money because I am rich. I'm not a success, right, because of what's on the outside of me. I'm a success because of what's on the inside of me. Okay? You see where we went with that? So it brings us to the topic of security. And when you think of security and you ask people, okay, what is a perfect example? What is your explanation, or what is an example of security in your life? And more oftentimes than not, people are going to say having more than enough money. All right. And so this podcast is all about helping you to do that, but do it in the metaphysical, spiritual capacity, from that spiritual level of consciousness, if you will. And that is a way to ensure that cash flow is completely sustainable throughout the course of your life, and it also becomes a situation where it helps your loved ones too, right? That's what spiritual consciousness is all about, is understanding that the supply is completely infinite and unlimited, but the supply, as Joel Goldsmith says so eloquently, is an inner quality. Supply is an inner quality. Supply is an inner quality. Supply is an inner quality. So what does that mean? Whatever's outside of me is not necessarily the supply. Money's not necessarily the supply. It's the expression of the supply, the form of the supply, but money is not the supply. So if I know that, where does my security have to come from, right? My security has to come from within me. Security is an inner thing. Just like supply is an inner feeling, security is an inner feeling as well, right? How secure and how safe we feel is a direct correlation to what is inside of us. You can't create anything outside of you unless you've created it within yourself. That is the law of consciousness, right? The law of life. Everything starts all as consciousness, thinking, feeling, being, beliefs, way of life, what you're convinced of within your subconscious mind or your imagination. So in order for me to truly experience security on the outside level, I have to experience security within myself, right? And so how do I do that? Well, the number one way, and this is although a money podcast, it's a spiritually money podcast, understand who God is, right? What God is. So let's just cut to the chase. You are God. I am God. God is all, right? So when we know that, and that realization comes over us, then we can move to the next level. Now, if you're not there yet, keep going, because that's one of the greatest realizations that anybody can have, is understanding that they are God and God is them, period. There's no separate entity or anything like that. God is you and you are God. As the Bible says, I and my Father are one, right? So once you realize that, then you have to understand the nature of God. Excuse me. So you have to understand the nature of God. And when you understand the nature of God, you know right off the bat that God, in all of its wholeness, in all of its beauty and magnificence, right? And aesthetically pleasing divine essence, it is the absolute pinnacle of safety, of security, right? Of safety, of security. Now, not sure why you would be listening to this podcast, but if you are and you don't believe in God, you can just replace it with the idea of love, right? Because love is a large, enormous aspect of God. But the reality is you are God, whether you want to call it God or not, made in the image and likeness of the divine creator. You are the divine creator in a nutshell. But the reason why we want to understand what God is, who God is, what God means, what God indicates, is because that alone will tell us where we can get our security from in order to feel it on the inside first, and then to watch it show up in its fullness on the outside of us. So I did an episode on the Heart of Christ Ministry podcast, and we talked about understanding the nature of God. And we talked about the omnipresence of God. And omnipresence, I'm sure you're aware, but if you don't, it just means able to be present everywhere. Omni means universal, right? It's like universal presence, which means and tells us that God is everywhere. Everywhere, 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 at all times. And if God is everywhere, at all times, all places, all aspects of life, right? That means that God is in us, okay? That means that God is in us, right? And so you go to the next one, which is omnipotence, which is universally powerful, all power, all activity. So that mentions that God is the only power and the only activity working in our lives, which means if God is the only power, only activity working in our lives, it can only be along the lines of everything that is of a higher vibrational nature. It can't be lack, it can't be limitation, it can't be struggle, can't be discord, can't be disharmony, can't be any of those things. So what does that tell us? That tells us right off the bat, anything dealing with lack or limitation, God cannot be. And if God is in us, and we are in God, that means lack and limitation cannot exist within ourselves. And that means that you can only have security. You can only have safety. There's no way you can feel unsafe by being God. There's no way you can feel insecure by being God unless you separate yourself in consciousness, which is your thinking and your feeling, your acting. The only way you can be separate from God is if you separate yourself in consciousness. Other than that, you're always going to be one and the same of God. And because you're one and the same, you naturally, automatically have that infinite security within yourself. Okay? And then when you begin to feel that infinite security within yourself, that infinite safety, guess what? As Richard Dott's title would say, dollars flow to me easily, baht flow to me easily, pounds flow to me easily, euros flow to me easily. It all flows to me easily because it is an expression, right? It's an expression of that security you feel within yourself. You see, a lot of times, we've been conditioned to think that whenever there's something outside of us that seems like a financial problem, we automatically, and I mean, I'm speaking for myself completely, but it could be the case if you're here too listening in. We instantly jump to the idea that more money is the solution, right? Isn't that how it goes? Right? Something goes wrong. It seems like you don't have enough to cover something. And then all of a sudden you jump right to the idea more money is going to solve this. But in actuality, that's the universe telling you that the idea to look deeper on a spiritual level, or an emotional level, or a mental level, that's the spirit telling you that this problem goes deeper, because the reality is everything in the external world is just a reflection of the internal world, of the consciousness. So, if I understand that, and I understand that clearly, why would something outside of me be the solution to my problem? It's not. It's not going to be the solution at all. If anything, it's going to give it a temporary fix, and then I'm going to fall right back into the same problem. So I'm going to give you a story of my own accord about my journey with security and how excuse me for a second. Holy moly. So I'm going to give you a story, my story with security. And the reason I want to do this is because I want you to see how you can look within yourself, um, become one with your godhood and be led to uh, gain a greater understanding of the truth within yourself as far as what's brewing within your subconscious mind. So let me get to it. So um, for a while there, as I was growing up, I noticed that money became this thing that just kind of reeked of insecurity. It kind of reeked of unsafety, if that's a word, right? Or a lack of safety. And that's the biggest thing. It just felt unsafe. And it started out with, authority figures in my life fighting over money. And then it sort of went to seeing relatives receive large sums of money and then excuse me, having their life turned upside down and like basically being worse off, like because of money. Like it's almost pretty much like they won the lottery. It was actually through a settlement, but it's like they won the lottery. And then after, I want to say like a year or two, their lives just begin to just fall into shambles, and they were worse off. They were worse off than they were before they got the money. Like, I mean, like I'm talking about welfare and stuff, and like, just really, really intense experiences to sort of fall from grace like that. And then, up until I want to say pretty recent, I look at Robin Williams was one person that was really, I admired him a lot. And I knew he made tons of money over the course of his career, over the course of his life as a performer and a comedian. And when it came time, when I saw that he basically he killed himself, it just reaffirmed, right? Money wasn't safe. Money wasn't a secure thing. So when that happens, you sort of block, or I sort of just blocked out any opportunity that would bring a whole lot of money, because I was afraid that money would create this lack of safety again and this lack of security. And so on a subconscious level, I can't tell you how many situations I have denied, right? I have just, blocked because of that. Now, I've been fortunate enough to really do well in a sense, but when I look at that situation, I look at what I've done in reference to it, in relation to it, or what I could have done rather in relation to it. It's really intense, because why would you ever allow something into your life that ultimately makes you feel unsafe, that makes you feel insecure, right? So when I finally got to a place to understand and I realized how this was playing out in my life, I realized something so compelling and so profound. The lack of money in my life had absolutely nothing to do with money itself. Money was just the expression of my energy, my own personal energy. And the universe never makes mistakes when it comes to energy. So that's something very important to know. It never makes mistakes. It gives you exactly who and what you are. All you got to do is look at your life, and you're going to see completely that the universe is giving you exactly whatever you are, right? Not what you want, but what you are. That's what it gives to you. And so when I could look at my own life and realize all these things that were happening and unfolding, I had to take a beat. And I said, you know what? Did money cause all this trouble? Or did the consciousness of these individuals cause all this trouble? Ding! Light bulb went off, right? light bulb went off. And it went off because it showed me right then and there money being love in action, love in expression, or God in action, God in expression. That showed me right there. It was only a misconception, an idea misconstrued that money was the one causing all the issues. No. Money amplifies you as a person. So let's be honest, if you're a hot mess, like before you get money, when you get money, you're going to be even a hotter mess, or you're going to be the hottest mess. And we see this all the time with, different celebrities and whatnot. And so that's the thing that happened in my experience. I just thought it was the actual money making people be a certain way. So when I came to that realization, I understood it wasn't the money. And I possessed, or I had the realization that I was God and God was me, and I realized there could be no lack in God. I was able to overcome, right? I was able to overcome that experience that money was unsafe. And I tell you, almost instantly, it was so imminent the way money came rushing into my life. And the thing is that sometimes you can subtly miss it. But in hindsight, you have to look back. And I'll never forget, I cleared it and I checked my email and I found out my insurance was literally going down like a huge number, like saving so much on it. And most people are like, well, that's blah, 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 whatever. But, it's things of the sort, like that shift in consciousness changed things so fast that all of a sudden money could now be a safe space for me. But I had to be a safe space within myself. I had to be secure, not just with it, but with myself. And then once I had that security, not just around money, but that security within, it began to flow in a way that I can't even begin to explain to you, because it was honestly a loving space for it. Now, there was no hangups. There was no and this is what's powerful. And I heard this from Reverend Ike before. Money is psychic on a certain level, but I think it's more or less just the universe's energy. And if there is anything within you that repels it, it's going to repel it. It's going to, and there's nothing you can do until you overcome that issue that you're having. That's a beautiful thing, and it's a terrible thing at the same time, because, it causes a lot of hardship, but the universe never stops showing you what the issue is. You just got to awaken your awareness, the God as you awareness, to be able to see it and to alleviate it and release it from your consciousness. And I tell you, the universe will give you exactly what you are, not what you want, but exactly what you are. And if you look close enough, you can see where things might be out of alignment. And that's what I did in this situation. And then once I took care of it, once I realized that, because God is in me, or because God is me, I have safety and security everywhere. It basically wiped out any idea that money was unsafe, because money is God in action, God in expression, right? Love in action, love in expression. Why would God ever be unsafe, right? God wouldn't be. If God was unsafe, then I would be in trouble, because if I'm God and God is me and God is unsafe, we got some issues there, right? So it took me to a whole new level in my money journey, in my spiritual journey, because it really solidified the idea with the law of correspondence, as we spoke earlier, as within, so without, right? Everything in life is controlled. Everything in external reality is controlled by the consciousness within ourselves, our internal reality, right? As within, so without, as in thought, so in manifestation, has been one of the biggest most pivotal truths for me to know, because there is nothing that explains it better when it comes to figuring out, okay, why is something happening? Why is something not happening? You can always look at yourself, because there's always something within you that's causing everything. And when we know that, we understand, okay, we have the power now to change this and transform our lives. And that's what I did to get to the understanding that security, although it looks like an enormous amount of wealth and everything, all these nice things and material aspects outside of me, it's actually who I am and what I feel in regards to security and safety within myself. And that, my dears, is the honest, divine truth. Thank you so much for joining us today. It has been an absolute pleasure. Happy to talk about this stuff, because I know somewhere, somehow or another, in South Africa of late, it's been helping people on an enormous level. And so I'm really grateful about that, and grateful to you guys for listening in, wherever you are, wherever you may be. If you have any questions, once again, SeanG04@gmail.com, write to me. Get back to you as soon as I possibly can. You're looking for free resources. I know we talked about medium.com/Sean Grant. We got uplifterentertainment.com, which is my personal website, uplifterentertainment.com. My YouTube channel, which is just Sean Grant, ShaunGrant. I got over almost 700 videos there, which, some really, really great stuff as it relates to the money cure. And then lastly, we have a money cure book, The Money Cure, Healing Your Relationship to Money and Discovering the True Path to Abundance, available on Amazon in paperback as well as Kindle. I believe it's on Kindle Unlimited too as well. So if you get an opportunity and you want to learn more and dive more into it, tap into that, check those out. But all in all, thank you guys for joining me today. Once again, it's been a pleasure. We will talk soon. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, wherever you are. Take care. Bye-bye.